Hello again, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Game Pass Grab Bag, your weekly podcast reviewing games of the Game Pass collection, bringing you three unique perspectives of varying skill range. I am Brutalitops, the Magician. With me, Zippity-Doo, the Dwarf.
Hello.
And of course with us are Hector, the Well-Endowed, Liz.
Hey guys.
And if you know this reference, we can be friends. This week, we had a listener request, so thank you so much, Seth, who recommended that we play Solasta, the Magister's Crown, by Tactical Adventures. Solasta Crown of the Magister is a top-down RPG based on Dungeons & Dragons, specifically the Generation 5 rules. But Solasta is a turn-based action RPG where you are playing in a world of Solasta that has recently, well not recently, but originally had a giant cataclysmic event where humans ended up coming into this magical world, and it's been over 1,000 years since this cataclysmic event. And you are a young, freshly recruited party that's going out and trying to solve some mysteries that have been going on in the kingdom. But oh boy, I think this is going to be a fun episode. Oh, before I forget, I really wanted to put this in as a PSA early on in the episode before I forget it. If you decide to play Solasta Crown of the Magister, I highly recommend that you do not download this game. I recommend that you only play this game via cloud. Because if you play this game via cloud, I noticed you will get all the DLC for free. All the DLC will be active. But if you download it, you obviously will only get the base game and you'll have to pay for all the DLC. This is also kind of a warning as well, because I first started to play this game on the cloud, and then I realized I couldn't load my save when I was trying to play the original version of the game when I downloaded it. So, just a quick PSA, I recommend you cloud this game. But anyway, Keith, start us off. What did you think of Solasta Magister the Crown? Is this a gamer pass for you?
I did not like this game. I thought I wouldn't mind it. I've always thought the idea of Dungeons and Dragons seemed like some fun. I thought I would enjoy it, and I still think actually that I would. But boy, oh boy, this is just not for me. It's slow. It's a lot. And it does nothing for me. There's a few little things, I guess, here and there that I maybe can say are some shining moments. But overall, I would not have liked this on the Xbox 360 or the original Xbox, where it looks like it was built on, and I still do not like it on my Series X.
Harsh. All right, Liz. I think you are going to be the changing factor here. Was this a gamer pass for you?
When I first started playing this game, I did not like it. And now I do. Ooh. And I think that the other games that we've played like this, I've liked more. It's not my favorite of this genre, although it's kind of multiple genres, but like, you know what I mean. But it just felt like everything, the way that the game is set up, is not intuitive to the player. And so I found it like almost tricky to get the hang of it. It didn't feel fluid, and it took me a long time to actually get to a point where I was like, okay, I get it. I'm having fun. So it's now a game, but this is one of those reasons why like it's so important that I put in a minimum 5 hours into a game, because if I just put a couple hours into this game, I would have been like definite pass. So
yeah. So this game, I think, is a perfect example as to why we do this gamer pass at the beginning. Because, yes, this is a game for me. Now, would you say, Andrew, is this a good game? I would say no. It has its issues, but I had a ton of fun with this game. This game still like brought so much joy to me, even though it is not good. Like the voice acting is very laughable. Like I was cracking up laughing at just some of the dialogue in this game. It's so really poorly written. The animations are so janky, the facial expressions, but I thought the combat was fun. I loved the exploration. I loved the adventures. I loved creating a character. I had a ton of fun with Solasta, but no, it's not a good game, but it is 100% a game for me. I thought I had a blast with it. So yeah, thank you, Seth, for recommending it, even though Keith probably doesn't agree. But yeah, so let's get into Solasta Crown of the Magister. As I said, the story of it's a very heavy Dungeons & Dragons. So if you are new to Dungeons & Dragons, or if you've always been interested in it like me, I've played-ish games like Dungeons & Dragons, specifically, me and Liz, before we started this podcast, we were playing a good amount of Gloomhaven, which Gloomhaven is very more heavy into like Dungeons and Dragons, but it's less imagination and more actually playing a board game. So I had some experience kind of playing Dungeons and Dragons a little bit that way, but I've never actually sat down and done like a full game of Dungeons and Dragons. So playing this and getting into the story and the realm and the fantasy of it all, I thought it was a ton of fun. I love the dice rolling and everything, but yeah, the story, as I said, you're playing in this fantasy kingdom called Solasta that originally had this giant cataclysmic event that ended up destroying majority of this place and ended up wiping out a race of like high elves that was the crown of the capital, and the humans ended up coming into this world. And 1,000 years later, the world is still kind of torn apart from the cataclysmic event. There's still weird things that are going on, buildings that are sideways, some creatures that they thought were long gone are now reappearing. And you're playing a party that you get to create and customize your own. You get to pick what characters you want. So you're not forced to do this specific party, but you can pick who you want, and you end up going on an adventure and you discovering the mystery behind this crown that you end up finding. But what did you guys think of the story? Specifically, I guess the storytelling of Solasta.
Can I just say, I find it really shocking. I mean, I already knew this about you, but I still find it shocking that you have never played a full thing of Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, I dabbled once.
If you met somebody who was really into it, you'd play it in a heartbeat, I feel like. Just to see what it was like.
Yeah.
Well, you definitely would. Story-wise, I found it interesting. I feel like I didn't get crazy far into the story, but one thing I wanted to bring up with the characters is that it kind of reminded me of Operencia, where like Dean was kind of like the snarky whatever. The problem is though that I felt like dynamic-wise with the characters, I felt like Operencia's were better. I like the characters and I like the way that they talk to one another and everything, but I still like it wasn't up there with Operencia,
Kind of different games to compare, but I see where you're going now.
Well, no, I'm talking about the characters and the dynamic of the characters. I said it reminded me of the characters in Operencia.
Yeah,
I didn't say that
because like the characters you picked aren't like canon. Like you could have picked a completely different party.
Oh, so you guys didn't have like a snarky person?
No, like that's all depends on the personality of the characters you had.
I thought there was always at least like one snarky person.
No,
because of dialogue choices.
Some dialogue I noticed would be always present in a story, but some of the quips that some of the characters would say would be depending on their personalities. Whether they were like lawful good or chaotic evil or chaotic good.
So you could do all good?
Yeah. And so they would probably have more of a personality of like protecting the weak kind of thing.
Maybe that's why they weren't playing off of each other the way that I expected it, because all the characters are different. Where if you had just have 4 characters, like personality-wise, the way that they are, I feel like they could have done a better job with the dialogue between them.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess that maybe that's a little bit of what makes the storytelling and the dialogue a little bit of what it is. And so kind of taking your, I don't know if turn of phrase is the right way to say it, is the dialogue good? No. Is it probably one of my favorite things about the gameplay? Yes. Because it is so goofy. I know I made fun of it, and we'll talk more, but like the facial expressions and everything about it is so dang bad that it actually becomes comical. And that's the part I was like, I just want more of this. Like, I actually just want to keep doing this.
It's funny. This is probably the first game where Keith did not skip dialogue. Me and Keith were playing multiplayer, which this game, has 4-player co-op, which is awesome. But Keith, being the host, had the power to skip dialogue. And I was playing with him, and I told him, like, Keith, you can skip this. But Keith did not want to. You wanted to watch all of it, which is, I feel like, a first for you in the game.
So I didn't get far. I will fall on the sword. I will admit, I don't think I hit my 5 hours even. I think I was like shy of that. But I mean, partially because personally, like 10 minutes of this game feels like 4 hours to me. It's just the kind of the pace of the gameplay that I struggle so much with. But on top of that, it's just, I still hit this moment of the dialogue, and I'm sure you did too. It was after you get out of the Sorik cave and you go and you talk to the council, and just everyone on the council is so goofy. They're trying to be like serious and all of these things, but I don't even know how to explain it. It's just I was laughing the whole entire time, but I just could not get enough of it.
I fully agree. That's what I love, because like everyone is so stiff. Like everyone, like the characters practically stand in like T-pose. Their arms are just like out to the side, and like their bodies aren't animated. Their faces are slightly animated, and I agree with you, Keith. I was just laughing at the story, and I didn't care about the overall story. I thought the overall story and the atmosphere was fine. You know, there's a lot of lore you could probably dig into in this game, you know, being a Dungeons & Dragons type game. But I didn't care. I didn't care about the history or anything like that. I just thought it was funny going on this adventure with my 4 companions. And yeah, the dialogue just, it was so poorly written.
Am I remembering correctly too that just about nobody had a single ounce of facial expression?
They do slightly, like but not really. Like their eyes and their head would bob a little, and their mouths would
some
move.
Head bobbing. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's about it. That's about the extent of it. There's definitely no motion capture going on here.
Did you guys record any game clips of your favorite conversations?
Yes, I did.
I was trying to, but I messed it up because I had taken a clip and then it like messed up the whole thing.
I did one. So me and Keith, like I said, we played multiplayer. And me and Keith, we both created our own characters. So Keith ended up doing like a druid, a barbarian. I created a sorcerer, and who was my 4th guy? I think it was a paladin.
Ranger.
But I created a halfling and a dwarf. Oh yeah, it was a ranger. And Keith created a halfling and tiefling, I think it was. I can't remember the species of the 4th character. But essentially, 3 of our characters are waist high, and then the last guy is super tall. So we ended up looking like
Guardians of the Galaxy a little bit.
No, we ended up looking like a daycare. Yeah. Like we had a chaperone, and we were just a bunch of children going out on a play date. And then, of course, one of the characters mentioned that he's like, "No, we're grown-ups," even though everyone's like 2 feet tall. Yeah, some of the dialogue was hilarious.
Fun point. Creating that multiplayer game and you loading your characters, I had those characters still when I could load up that game as single player. And so I had good old Fartface tagging along for my adventure there, which one thing I did take a clip of, not a clip, but a screenshot. It was in one of my travel sequences, and it gives you, the little like highlights of the adventure. And it was Fartface praise. Fartface makes a nice meal for everyone. just those 2 things back to back to me. Just genuinely gave me a good laugh. And there's so many games that you can do name creation, so it's not that it's that special. But man, it made for some good laughs in this gameplay style.
Oh yeah, I gotta say, I really enjoyed the character creator of this game. So Keith, you never played Dungeons & Dragons
I
before,
did not.
Right? All right, and then obviously Liz, you did not.
Nope.
All right, so all of us are pretty new at Dungeons & Dragons. I probably have the most experience. I know a lot of it, how it works. And one thing I gotta say, I don't know if you guys agree with me on this. I felt like this game was very accessible. I found it to be very easy to learn kind of the rules of Dungeons & Dragons, because the one thing I really liked about it, specifically like showing with the character creator, is there's a bunch of lore and stuff you can do. It's very important what race you're picking, because they have special traits. If you want to pick, maybe someone who has extra hit points, if you want to make them a warrior, a fighter, someone who's a frontline fighter, then maybe you want to do like an elf who does really well with magic. So, like, it's really important that you pick what specific race you want to do with, like, specific class. But the nice thing is, like, this game really guides you really well to hold your hand to kind of learn some of these systems. Because as I'm creating my character, there's, like, big old sheet of all these spells, and it's like, pick what spells you want, but there's actually an auto. So it actually will select spells for you if you want. Same with perks. There's, depending what class you're picking, you get certain perks, and you can allocate points to it. You could have the game just auto it for you. And I love that kind of freedom of, do I want to be, fully put my hands in here and do everything on my own, or do I want the computer to actually adjust things for me? And I loved it. And same with like when it came to a little bit with the combat, it first is very jarring because everything you're doing, dices are rolling and numbers are appearing, and you're like, I don't know what the heck's going on. Okay, I guess 15's good. I guess I won that. I don't know. But as I kept playing, like, it really was like clicking with me of like what was going on. And so I don't know about you guys, but I found this game to be pretty accessible for someone who doesn't know too much of Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of acts as the DM of the game, in the sense that I think that
Dungeon Master.
I know I'm very well versed in my Dungeons and Dragons, so I can use these terms. But like the game kind of acts as it, and I think that's where it's a little weird for me when I say, because I obviously have not experienced true Dungeons and Dragons, because I've mentioned that. But where I think it would be different for me is actually sitting there and talking it out with somebody versus the game just kind of being like, yeah, here's a bunch of stuff, do this and this, or just hit this button. And I don't know what that button did. I'm glad that it had it, and it made that function of creating the character a little bit easier. And also, I think you mentioned having just those pre-built characters, so you didn't really have to go through all of that, was nice. But if I'm like, I would like to know all of those things, and I think that doing it through a true traditional Dungeons and Dragons experience would be better for someone like myself, at least. And I would truly enjoy that experience, I think, versus doing it here where I was just like, I'm just going to refer to the button and go from there.
I feel like I understood like that part of it pretty well, the Dungeons and Dragons, the dice rolling and stuff. But for me, like, I was more the controls and the setup.
Yeah. And
so, like, for instance, like, I wanted to give one clothing item to somebody else in my group, and I couldn't figure out how to do it. It might have told me there was 1,000 pop-ups, but I figured out how to do it in like the chest. But it's like, where do I find the quests? I kept like going to the wrong area, and even with like the spells and stuff, like it was like just like finicky sometimes. Like it wouldn't let me do certain things and take me a couple tries. So I felt like the Dungeons and Dragons aspect and the story and all that, I got it, but it's just like the layout specifically, and then the actual controls.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you, Liz. The controls of Solasta are not good. There is a lot going on, and yeah, the tutorial majority of the time is just constant pop-up text boxes of, hey, you're going on an adventure. This is how the map works. This is how this works. This is how equipping things work. And there's just a lot of reading. And you do have a journal where it does show you all these previous pop-ups. So if you forget something, which you probably will forget something, you can kind of go through it all. But there is just a lot of text and a lot of dialogue. So the tutorial overall can be very heavy. And the controls just don't make a lot of sense with some of the mapping they did with the controller. So this is kind of a game where, like, I feel like if I put it down and a month later, it'll take me a second to kind of remember some of these controls. Because it's weird. Like, when you're opening your inventory, to actually use an item, you click the right stick. Like, who thought of clicking the right stick? Like, I would constantly be hitting A, but it's like, oh, that's moving your item. It's like, no. Like, why would using an item be click right stick? It's weird. But, yeah.
I also wanted to mention really quick, I'm thinking about, like, the rolling the dice. There was this character that I had, and because at the beginning I just Googled like the best classes or whatever. That's how I got my 4 people. But there was this one guy, and he was he kept trying to give these historical facts. Like there was like a statue, and every time he missed, and everyone just like stood there awkwardly after, and it kept happening, and it was like one of my favorite things because he missed like so far every single time.
Like on dialogue?
Just like
terrible time.
Like on dialogue, or?
Yeah, like it was like a history thing came up, and then he would like kind of
it was an
guess
insight
and say
roll,
something.
is what it is.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's like, "Oh, this looks like a so and so," and then it'd be like miss, and he just looked like such an idiot.
I mean, is it because of how they reacted, or just because of how the character models are, and that nobody reacts?
It's the reaction afterward. They're all just like standing there, like, "Let's get going."
Anyways, Steve, let's move along. It's time to put you to bed.
See, this is like, I had so much fun with Solasta. Like, it was these little like dialogue moments that just brought me so much joy because of how cheesy it was. It reminded me kind of like a sci-fi original movie, like where those movies are just so campy and crappy that like they're fun. Is how this game reminded me of.
My mom always watch those sci-fi original movies, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
So I don't know. I did have fun playing this when I was playing multiplayer with you, Andrew, and I don't know that I'd be excited to like pick it up and be like, oh, let's do this again. But that said, is I do think the best time of it, like all of these fun moments or funny kind of silly moments, they're funny, but it's not enough to drive me to want to play a game. Like, hey, it's just kind of goofy, so I want to play it.
What can I say? I'm just a fun person to play with.
Well, I mean, in theory, I guess I would say this with any of my friends, is that it's fun to...
No, just me.
Maybe. You're the only person I play with anymore, just about anyways. So it's one of those things that I can see that it's funny, but I would rather be sitting there, or, in the game laughing about it with my friends, because I don't know, you can't, yes, we're telling those stories and we're laughing about them. Hopefully everyone else is, but I don't know. I don't know if I'd find it as funny if I didn't know the game or I wasn't in it playing with you, I guess. I don't know if that makes sense. Like it's not just like, they're not just like jokes. It's weird quirkiness of this gameplay. And that's where I think the 4 players would be fun, because I actually think you said that I controlled all the dialogue. I think I only controlled dialogue when it was my 2 characters speaking versus the 2 characters that you controlled speaking.
I don't know.
Or there was like a weird voting system or something like that.
Yeah, I couldn't tell if it was a voting system or it was me suggesting, like, hey, I suggest we pick this dialogue.
I think it might have been that.
Because when I was doing it with Liz, it seemed like it was picking every time she, like, whatever she selected.
Maybe. I have no idea. I honestly don't remember paying close enough attention to it. I remember you having some sort of a selection, but I think that would add to the fun if you had 4 characters, because then, like a true Dungeons and Dragons game, you can kind of just be messing around and like one person who never wants to follow along with what everyone's doing, and they're just always going to be doing something stupid, versus everyone else kind of trying to take it seriously. And it's just, that's where I could see the gameplay being more fun than just kind of sitting there playing Dungeons and Dragons by myself. That's not, that's like the original party game.
Oh yeah, no, you're 100% right, because there is a lot of options and routes in this game, which is really awesome, because you can just about kill anyone you want out in your adventures. You could actually talk your way out of a lot of things. Like, there's a lot of things you can do, because a lot of times you're going up and they're like, oh, that's a strange man up ahead, and you have options of like, oh, let's try to talk to him, or let's just kill him. So like, you can like actually screw around and ruin quests and kill people, or you could just flat out start swinging at people. So I was asking Liz, and I want to know what happened in your game, Keith. So very first quest you go on, you end up finding 4 survivors. How did you get the book from the scout?
Was it the guy with the hood?
Yeah.
I think I just flat out called him out on it. If I recall, the dialogue was something along, like I went to him first, I think, actually.
Yeah, I killed him.
No, he ended up coming along with us. He ended up living, because we basically went, yeah, so what else did you go out there for? He's, well, like, okay, but no, really, what did you go out there for? He's, well, I had this book, and then he gave it over, and then a Soric attacked the girl.
One of the people?
And she died? And 2 of them came along. The leader and that guy came along with me. He was awesome, though. He had a double attack, so that was really cool. Yeah. And he had a bow and arrow, too, so he was pretty nifty.
What happened in your game, Liz?
The same thing as Keith. I talked to him first, but I had to go back to him in order for him to like give me the rest of the details. But I went to the other people first.
That might have been true too. I might have had to go back to him.
Yeah, that's what happened with me, because he was the first person that I talked to. Which I wanted to know, are there repercussions for like rude dialogue and stuff? I mean,
well, it could start fights.
Oh, okay.
What?
Well, because you're talking to like that guy at the council and stuff, and you can give like rude answers, and I was too nervous. I don't like to give the rude answers anyway. But
when it comes to you being in the main town, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think when it comes to the main town, your dialogue is a little bit more straightforward, and you just doing rude dialogue can just maybe give you more information about like your current quest. Because that's what I kind of noticed is it's when you're out on the road and you're out doing the actual adventuring where you could actually cause trouble and kill people and stuff like that.
I did think of one thing that was different with my story and Keith's, though, is that the girl didn't get killed with my game, it was the other guy.
Oh.
And then she was upset that he died and she stayed behind.
Yeah, that was what happened with me too. I couldn't remember. I remember her getting upset, but I couldn't remember if she died or not. But you took
so
the
for
other
me,
two,
it was like
right?
the older lady.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had the same. I think we had the same thing happen.
So I killed the hooded guy
Yeah.
because I assumed he was a Sorak.
You mean murdered?
Well, I gave a sassy answer. He had technically attacked me first, but he
You can't fire me. I quit.
he started it, but I finished
Oh.
it. And the girl died, and so then the two remaining survivors joined.
I wonder
in,
if that
the
part's
captain
kind of
and the other guy.
scripted. Is that those two? Well, no, because never mind. Because you took it too.
Someone dies from a Sorak is, I think, like scripted. It's like, but it depends who it dies.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because the girl died for me.
Okay.
And sorry, this is I guess slight spoiler, but this is literally like the first mission.
Yeah, I
Like,
think it's
really not
probably
missing
about the only
much.
thing we all did.
well, me and Liz did much more
Well, I know you did.
How do you know how much I did?
because I saw you. Play.
I definitely saw you
Oh,
play
okay.
more than I did.
I also noticed I was excited when I first saw the characters traveling because it shows them on the map going and they'll, stop and rest and then they'll come across something. But there's this little box that tells you what the characters are doing. So it's like, oh, this person like killed a deer for meat or whatever animal was. And one was like, Dean is writing, which was one of my characters, is writing to like God knows who kind of thing. And I was like, oh, is this going to be like, but then they say it about everybody else. So like it became very uninteresting where it's just like the same thing, but different characters. And I was like, that had potential. I was invested.
Yeah, I mean, this game is definitely Baldur's Gate 3, but if Baldur's Gate 3 had a budget of like $100,000, like I'm impressed for what Tactical Adventures did with Solasta. But yeah, if you've been playing Baldur's Gate 3, do not play Solasta because this game will look like a heaping pile of trash compared to Baldur's Gate 3. But since we do not have Baldur's Gate 3 on Xbox, this is a nice kind of appetizer, if you would. So because at the moment, Baldur's Gate's
Isn't it Baldur's Gate?
Baldur's Gate. Thank you, Keith.
Yeah, you just kept saying
Gosh.
Baldur Gate and Baldur Gates. I think
I know.
Benedict
Thank you,
Cumberbatch 3. I don't know.
But anyway, yeah, this game's definitely kind of an appetizer until we get that game. I'm just gonna say that game now.
The one that this one's like, but not.
But yeah, so I was, like I said, I'm impressed for what Tactical Adventures did because I think it is a lot of fun kind of going on these different adventures and like having these different routes. So like the adventure I just finished, I just got the Necromancer gem, and like there's a couple bosses you can fight, but 3 of them I actually talked my way out of. Actually, technically I talked my way out of 4 of them, but I just pick a fight with one anyway to kill them because I wanted to get the achievement for both talking my way out and killing them.
You did that a couple times.
Yeah, which the boss fights were pretty hard. But getting into the combat, so the combat, we said, is a tactical turn-based RPG. So, you're moving your characters on a grid, you're taking your turn, whether in an action or moving or dashing or various actions depending what character and class you are. And you're essentially rolling a dice, whether you hit, and then you roll some dice to how much hit points you're doing. And that's generally how the combat works. But I gotta say, I had a lot of fun with the combat. I thought the combat was actually really good because there's a lot of options you can kind of do. You can even interact with some of the environment, whether it be like knocking things over on top of the enemies, shooting a chandelier off the ceiling to crush an enemy, shoving an enemy off a cliff so they take some height damage. I thought the combat was actually a lot of fun.
Well, so we don't play a lot of tactical RPGs on the podcast, or we haven't historically.
We've done a couple.
A couple, maybe. But that said, I historically am not a fan of tactical RPGs. I don't do well with the grid management, and like it gets overwhelming for how I'm playing. Now it's time wise it's pretty easy to do because nothing's overly time sensitive as you're doing it, so you can really strategize it out, and that's nice. But I don't have that kind of patience, if I'm honest, and it's one of the reasons I just don't care for the style so much. So as a whole, I didn't like it just starting out as a base, but I just found it, boy, oh boy, to be clunky. And there's a lot of buttons to hit, but you also can really just simplify it and just kind of hit A as your base attack. Whatever that is, if you're, range, melee, whatever it may be. So there's simplistic things about it, but overall, I thought it was complicated and slow was my biggest complaint.
What about turn-based RPGs? Do you just not like the tactical aspect, or do you not like the turn-based aspect?
The tactical aspect of it. It's the having to move and strategize out my RPGs and my
your RPGs.
Exactly, my RPGs and my moves, and just having all of those things to navigate. And I think it's nice. Like I think the environmental aspect of any of these games is cool, but I just, it's too much for me personally, and that's why I don't, as a whole, tend to like them.
I tend to like them, but I get very intimidated at first, like most games that I play. I get really nervous about them. I did eventually turn down the difficulty in this, but it was specifically because I knew that I wouldn't get very far in the game, especially because I kept putting it off because, like, the first couple hours I did not like, and I kept putting off the game.
It's slow
and then
at the beginning. When
I finally started liking it, I'm like, oh crap. So I felt like the combat, when you lower the difficulty, it is a bit too easy. I also feel like I need to get more into the spells and stuff, because right now I'm mostly doing bow and arrow and melee weapon, because I don't think the spells are that great.
Oh, I disagree.
So far,
the spells are great. I think the spells are.
I said so far because I haven't really got, because you can craft them and stuff too.
You can craft scrolls, which anyone can essentially cast a scroll.
Oh, I thought you could make spells.
You can learn spells by reading books.
Yeah.
And it depends on, if your character is able to cast those spells, depending on their class.
Which, again, it's more confusing than it needs to be. Same with, the book. Just let all my characters read the book and have the book disappear. I'm like, what do I do with this book? How do I read it? Where do I get rid of it? It just, But I also felt, too, it was disappointing that you're getting these loot bags, which they started disappearing on me. And then I was talking to you about it, Andrew, and said, oh, there must not have been anything in that one, because it would disappear before I could get to it. And because they just sit there during combat, but there really wasn't any exciting weapons in there.
And you love to loot.
I know, I don't know if it gets better, but right now I'm finding some clothing items that are better than what my characters have. But weapons wise, if the damage is better, it's not better in other areas. I haven't found anything good.
In which that's very typical Dungeons and Dragons. You're not getting these randomly procedurally generated weapons with, constantly changing stats. You're getting a lot of longsword, and they're all the same longsword. And then everyone's all longsword +1. And so it's just a slightly better version of the longsword.
I just need more. Instead of waiting 7 battles, let me have a new one at 3 maybe. I know that's kind of nitpicky, but... And then did you guys have any bugs or...
I don't think so.
Because there was... I've seen a lot online, especially when it first came out. It was very buggy. I quick saved my game, and then it randomly brought me back, and I lost all my progress. Not all my progress. Sorry, that I had been playing that setting.
I think you said you lost 15 minutes when you texted me.
It was longer because I forgot that I had sold a bunch of stuff, and I had to go around and talk to people. It was in the main area, so it was all the kind of grindy stuff. It wasn't an exciting battle that I could redo.
I feel like I had similar happen, but I was in the middle of a battle and I tried to save and quit. So I don't know if that was part of where I ran into an issue.
Yeah, I wasn't in the middle of dialogue or anything. And I mean, there are some things too that were my fault. This is not a bug at all, but there are some things that I got frustrated with the game. So I was like, Andrew, I have no idea where to go. I could, I YouTube stuff all the time, but I was feeling lazy. I was like, Andrew, where do I go? Cause he was sitting right next to me and he pointed to it and I was like, it's black there. And I just was a millimeter too far away from the ledge, and then all of a sudden it showed everything, and I was just like, that's annoying. It's also my fault, but also not my fault.
See, I always found a way. I was always able to figure out where I could go because your camera would not go past the walls. So the invisible walls would actually stop your camera. So if I'm like, okay, where could a path be? If you just move the camera around and you could actually put the camera out in the blackness, that means, my characters can actually go in that area.
That's smart. I wish you had told me that when that had happened. But also the map kind of showed me, but then I was like, but how do I get down? So the map indicated I needed to get there, but yeah.
And that's what I love. This game, being Dungeons & Dragons, also, you have different routes depending on your character. If you have a character that's really good in athletics and strength, like they can jump farther, they can climb walls, like they can actually traverse some certain obstacles. So there's some chests you might not be able to get unless you have a character that's acrobatic. And, they can be able to climb up this wall and then push down a block so the rest of the party can come up. I loved the actual, design of the map. It felt like an actual, Dungeons & Dragons adventure.
And that's where I struggle, because I 100% agree with that. And I know it's on me, I guess, playing this game solo versus with friends, but I think I don't find it fun as a single player is the biggest thing. I can absolutely see where it's more fun with friends, of having to strategize those things out and plan your party and your leveling and all of those things, versus just managing all that on as one person of the party, because typically games that do that have better management for managing 4 players, whereas it gets to be, I don't want to say cumbersome, but unless you really know what you're doing, there's a lot going on, I think, personally.
I had no issues. I loved playing single player.
Fine.
So
I feel like
I see where you're coming from, Keith, but
I feel like it'd be more fun playing with Andrew if Andrew didn't always play the games before me. So, I mean, no offense. I like that you know where you're going and all that kind of stuff.
It's your fault. You take too long to start the game. You literally just admitted earlier when you're like, I didn't like this game, but then I started playing it and I was like, oh, I wish you played it.
You were proud of me. I started this game towards the beginning of the week.
Yeah.
And because I can't play it during the game this week. I didn't have time. So I had to play it at night during my free time. And he saw me playing it and he's like, oh, you're doing it early. And then I got to the 3-hour mark and I was like, I don't like this game. So kind of.
Yeah, we were playing it. You're like, this game's making me sleepy.
But it really was though. But most Games you've already played before we record anyway. Not all the time, but most of the time. Yeah. So it'd be nice to do a game like this when you haven't played it before.
I know.
I would feel smarter. You wouldn't be like, oh, go here, do this, do that. You'd have to figure things out in front of me.
I know, and I wish, because I loved playing Gloomhaven with you. We used to play that a bunch.
Yeah, did you play the... Sorry, I wasn't talking to the mic. Did you play the video game? It came out with a video game too, right?
Yeah, Gloomhaven's currently on Steam, and they're actually coming out with a console version in September.
No.
Oh, okay, yeah, because we got the hefty board game.
How does that?
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a lot of fun. But it's you have to put so many hours into it and have a place where you can set it up and stuff. And we did, but
and that's how Dungeons & Dragons is too. You gotta set it up.
It's a commitment.
I thought Gloomhaven was once you opened everything, it was almost one-time use. Or it kind of
yeah, the board game is they actually tell you. They actually tell you to stick stickers on the board, rip cards up after you've used it.
And it's expensive.
Yeah, so how does that work with, I guess obviously it just has a lot more replayability as a digital game.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, because it's obviously more procedurally generated.
Did we beat the...
No, we weren't even close.
Oh, I wasn't sure if you did kind of restart in a different way or something.
No,
yeah,
the
I had a
board
feeling...
game's 200 hours, and we did 40
Dang.
hours. So.
Okay. Oh, do you know why I'm confused? Because I think Dave ended up joining us.
Yeah, and so did your sister, but they just joined our adventure.
Yeah, that's why I was confused. Yeah. But yeah, because it has all those stickers, and we haven't done a lot of them. And that's the whole purpose of the game is people can create a character and join your party. Oh, I know what it is that I'm thinking of. You can your character has to retire. Yeah. And I think that's what I was thinking of. I was so sad when I had to get rid of my character. I really didn't want to. Yep. I still have my original. I never retired her. But anyway, back to Solasta. Oh, yeah. Gloomhaven is a game, though. Maybe we'll do Gloomhaven sometime. Do a board game episode. Yeah. That would be cool. Do a video of it. Yeah, we played tons of board games with Keith. Back in the day. Back in the day when we were friends. Wow.
I was gonna say our youth, but okay.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Our youth. Yeah. So Solasta's gameplay, I actually think is really fun. I thought it was a nice highlighted moment. But getting into, as we've already talked a little bit about it, the audio, the music, and the dialogue. The dialogue is, as we've said before, it's just rough. It's not bad. Like, I didn't think the voice acting was like poorly done. It's just like the editing of the game. Like there was random dialogue moments where like somebody's talking and then someone in your party just looks at everyone else in the party and goes, "Everyone quiet down." But nobody's talking. It's like, who wrote this line at this point in this game? Like the editing was just weird.
Some of the voices did not match the people.
Your character Dean?
Yeah,
it
did not match.
He's a 12-year-old boy, but he has like a deep voice.
Yeah, that was awkward.
I mean, that's part of the character creation a little, where you can change that, I suppose.
Well, he was a pre-generated character.
Oh, okay, so they just did it weird. But it's like, if you remember on Mass Effect, and I know that I was big wrong or whatever on this, where I was saying it's
big wrong.
It's just, I felt like everyone
big
was
wrong.
just saying lines, and then they just were like, someone was like hitting a soundboard with them. This is like 10 levels beyond that. This is like someone's doing it,
100%.
but they're like falling asleep as they do it. Like, oh yeah, I was supposed to hit that button. Oh yeah, that one too. And and nobody's really talking
100%.
to each other. They're just saying things. But man, is it great. It's like a campy B movie. And I think that while it is terrible, it is so entertaining.
I gotta say, some of the dialogue, like, not just being bad, but actually was legitimately funny. There was some banter. Like, your characters generally don't banter too much while you're out and adventuring. It's only when you kind of go in, like, the dialogue moments. Like, every once in a while you hear a banter of, like, "Wow, you're really strong." Like, really simple, like, uninteresting lines. But yeah, whenever they would actually go into, like, dialogue moments, there were some lines that were legitimately funny that I actually thought had really good humor.
I feel like I had a lot of banter between my people.
Like, during the
I don't know if
adventure?
it was during the adventure or not, but it wasn't like little things. Like, I feel like they were actually kind of sassy to one another.
Yeah, like during the dialogue moments. Like,
Yeah.
you talk about, like, when you're looking at the statues and, like, talk about the history.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, there was moments like that were generally funny.
I agree. And even with like the voices that didn't match and things like that, it didn't bother me at all. Like, I still enjoyed it, and I think it made it more enjoyable.
Yeah. Oh, it definitely did.
Yeah, because I was also just trying to picture the voice too.
Yeah.
And so I like some cringy dialogue and stuff.
Oh,
Doesn't
yeah.
bother me at all.
Like, I like Keith's halfling he made, as a barbarian. It literally looked like a 12-year-old boy who was, like, dressing up in a Halloween costume. And then, of course, the voice Keith picked sounded like an old British guy. He had a super deep voice. And he looks like a 12-year-old boy in a costume. Oh, it was so good. But the music was fine. It was kind of more just background noise, but it did fine for the adventure. So overall, yeah, I would still recommend having the audio on just because of the dialogue. But as far as music goes, not really worth it. Some of the spell casting got kind of annoying because every time you're doing, like, there was always a handful of spells I would always use, and every time the character cast it, they say the incantation and shoot it, and it's just like, okay.
I noticed that too. It didn't bother me that much, but someone like you who gets frustrated by repetitive noises, I I could see that.
I just remembered a dialogue that I loved because I love pun humor. My character party found a rune, and one of my characters saying, "Don't touch it, it's magic. You don't know what it does." And then one of the characters touches it and goes, "Oh, it doesn't work." And then one of them goes, "Maybe it was a spelling error."
Oh.
And I was like, and one of the characters looks at him and goes, "I hate you so much." And I was like, that is a good dialogue. I was like, that actually was really funny.
That is good.
Like, yeah, so that's what I mean. Some of the dialogue I actually thought is so enjoyable.
I just sent you a screenshot. This is one I had taken of our party, and it made me laugh because of the way that our smaller characters were looking up at our dog. Like they look like a small child looking up at.
I told you, our party looks like we're a bunch of toddlers being chaperoned by somebody.
I like that you didn't show me. I'm sitting right next to you.
It's like, don't
Sorry,
look
Liz.
at this list.
I know we gotta post these pictures on our socials. So follow us on X if you want to see them, or our Facebook.
It'll be on one of them.
Did you
Maybe
say
both if we
on
remember.
X?
X.
It's not Twitter anymore.
Twitter?
It's X.
Is that what it's called now?
Yeah, it's not Twitter anymore.
X.
It's X.
Oh, it's actually not called Twitter anymore.
Yeah, I mean people still call it Twitter, but
Yeah,
it's called X
You don't
now.
tweet, you post. You don't retweet, you
I can't
repost.
keep up.
No, I thought it was called Zeeting now.
Maybe, but when you hit the button, it says repost, or I think it still says quote. I don't know.
Oh.
It's the same
And now
thing.
there's like this
it
threads
says
nonsense,
different
and I'm
words.
like, I can't keep up.
Yeah.
I saw the logo change to X, and it was like a week before I realized that it was a different name, not just a different logo. So I'm with you, Liz.
It's weird to be like, follow me on X. I understand trying to change it. You know, it's a new platform and stuff. Like you obviously, you're something new, and you're rebranding it. But
Is it though?
yeah,
Yeah.
Are you guys gonna do a Threads
no,
social media?
no, I do not care for Threads. After I saw like, it's why I generally don't care for TikTok. Like the fine print of it is like they have access to a lot of the files on your phone, and you can't delete your Threads unless you delete your Instagram as well. Like they're tied together. It's just kind of sketchy, and it's like, yeah, I don't like that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. But anyway, graphics of Solasta. Also, we've mentioned before, the character models are super janky, but overall, I think the art style is actually pretty nice in Solasta. They did a very good job creating a fantasy world. I thought the character models had some weird clipping issues with their clothing and their facial hair and stuff like that, but overall, the elves looked like elves, the halflings looked like halflings. The environments, I thought, looked like a nice, cool fantasy world, and it actually looked like a top-down kind of Dungeons & Dragons map. So I thought the art design was pretty good. It's just definitely low budget.
I like that when you were out and about. I'm not really very sneaky. I mean, in games or in real life, I can't sneak. My
Your
ankles
bones crack
crack.
too much, yeah.
My ankles crack when I walk, so it's like now I'm not sneaking up on anybody. But
Every time you come up the stairs, I'm like, man, is Liz, popping a bubble wrap right now? What is that noise?
But I can see like, oh, my character could hide there, or like if I wanted to sneak attack. But I never wanted to sneak attack. I wanted to always like confront the person because I'm like, what if I do the wrong thing?
But I did that once on the second mission. They're like, oh, who are these people? Maybe we should go in and talk to them. I straight up just killed everyone. And they even said, they're like, well, I guess we're killing people. Like my party even like commented on how I was just killing. It clearly said cultists. So I'm like, well, they're cultists.
Oh, the triangle?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were bad anyway.
Oh, yeah. I
Don't
knew
worry
they were
about
going
it.
to be. But I didn't
Yeah.
even bother talking. I just started killing.
The people's bodies were not proportionate.
Oh, no, they weren't.
Which really is kind of freaky.
Yeah.
And there was this one guy I remember on the council. His facial hair and his head hair, they didn't, I don't know what they were thinking. It wasn't like the other people, they tried with the strands. Even if it didn't look good, they still tried. This was just like one color, like slicked. It looked so weird. And I was like, this, like they forgot about this guy.
But it's just definitely one of the charms of this game. Just the really goofy dialogue and just the character models. Oh, man, because some of the faces, too. It's like, are you supposed to be 80 or like 20? I can't really tell. But I loved it.
Yeah, its quirkiness was its best trait in my opinion. But
Yeah. But achievements. So the achievements for Solasta.
Why are there so many?
Yeah.
Well, so-
it's because there's so many branches.
But it is something that you dislike greatly.
Yes, a lot of the achievements are secret, but I think it's understandable
No.
because... What?
The total gamer score for it is 2,154.
Is it really?
oh,
Let
what?
me
You
double check.
completed
I mean,
it
I'm
with
getting
an odd
everything.
number? That's terrible.
I must be wrong. I
I
didn't
don't-
think about it like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, because we're all so Andrew,
mine's
you
terrible.
have 265, Keith 70, I'm 75, and there's 132 achievements. So yeah, Keith, you got 8, I got 9, Andrew got 29. But that's like
That makes me feel
I must be
lot
wrong.
better knowing that Andrew only got 260.
No, Liz is right. 2,154 gamer score is the
So
final
is there
score.
one that's like an odd number? Because we're all fives, so I don't think it's crazy like that.
I can't believe you saw that, Liz. Good job.
Catch. I didn't notice that, but yeah, I don't see myself getting there, so it's not going to be a problem for me. But yeah, that's a really odd number, and that would annoy me if I completed a game 100% and I ended up with that number.
So I can't see like the secret achievements, but all the other ones, it's in 5s and 10s.
Yeah, so it must be a secret achievement, which is really weird.
So there's one that just has like a 4. Maybe it's an accident. Maybe because I'm on the app. I looked it up on the app.
Maybe, but the app, it's usually pretty good. I don't think I've ever seen any real errors there.
Yeah, that's crazy. But yeah, the majority of the achievements are secret, but that's because they're obviously story related. So, and as we've been saying in this episode, there's a lot of branching paths. Do you talk your way out of this? You'll get an achievement. Or do you fight this character? You'll get an achievement. So this game is definitely meant to kind of be replayed multiple times, playing different characters, different party members. If you get the DLC, there's actually a total, I think, of 2 more. So a total of 3 stories if you do all the DLC. But the DLC will also give you other classes, such as being able to be as a druid, a warlock. There's a bunch of other. And then, of course, additional subclasses, different races. So as I said, this is why I recommend you cloud the game, because your game, you get all the DLC if you do it, which is pretty awesome. But, yeah, the achievements, yeah, so I don't recommend going through, well, if you don't care about spoilers, because I guess they're kind of spoilers. But, yeah, the secret achievements are just kind of telling what the story is going to be. But yeah, this game definitely has massive replayability. Just doing the main story of the main campaign you're looking about 40 hours, and it says completionist is 58 hours, which I highly doubt. Like, to do all the other campaigns and then like getting all the achievements, I find that really hard to believe, to do that all in 58 hours. But yeah, it's a hefty RPG. I saw some people were saying that the main campaign of Solasta is kind of a bite-sized adventure, like isn't crazy long, but I don't know. I've done over 10 hours, and I've only collected, I think, 1 out of the 5 gems. So, as Liz said, though, you can easily change the difficulty. There's a difficulty between 1 and 5. Default is 3. And yeah, if you're having any issues, you can turn it down and make it easier for yourself. And you don't get penalized within the achievements, so that's always kind of a plus. But
I feel like it was a mistake on their part. There's only one achievement that's a weird number, and it's 19 gamer score.
No, that would make sense because there's a bunch of 5s and 10s. So adding 9 onto a 5 would give you 4.
19?
So if they...
What was the achievement?
Let them eat cake?
Is it story related?
Yeah, if they, I don't know, just say there's 2 achievements, and one of them was 21:35, and then the other one is 19. That's going to put you at 21:54. But yeah, that's annoying still. Maybe it's a mistake, yeah, I guess, on them loading 19, or a mistake on them sending it to Microsoft as 19 instead of 20.
Yeah, it is
But yeah, that's stupid.
a spoiler.
I gotta say, some of the achievements, though, were actually kind of funny. You're a wizard, Henry. You get that achievement for creating a wizard. It's rogue, not rouge. Create a rogue. I know kung fu. When you create a monk.
There's
we
one
are
I
friends,
saw.
not food.
Yep, that's the one.
That was kind of funny. Every problem looks like a nail.
Is it something to do with fish?
No, you meet a vampire and you got to convince him not to try to fight you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's pretty funny. It's just a flesh wound. Nice Mighty Pot
So are some of
reference
these
there.
missable then?
Well, kind of,
So,
yeah,
yeah,
because it's depending on what path you're taking. Unless you quick save between every sort of dialogue option, you could possibly get all these achievements in one playthrough. You're just going to be redoing a lot of areas.
Oof, no. And that's not even because I don't like it. That's a lot.
All right, let's get our final thoughts here. Keith, you want to go first?
You know what? I will. I'll kick this thing off. There wasn't a lot about Solasta that made me want to play it. Now, I can absolutely see where going a bit further into the game, there is more branching out that I didn't dip my toes into. But that said, I don't think there was anything that was going to be offered that was going to ever really change my opinion on this game. As I mentioned, I don't care for the genre in the sense of a tactical RPG. I'm not very good at them, and that's one of the biggest reasons. It's a self flaw. But outside of that, I don't know. It's just not very good, and so for me, there's nothing really overly redeeming. I said it earlier that its quirkiness is its best feature. But if that's your best feature in a game, then it's not for me. And I could not bring myself to be like, hey, I'm going to put 45 minutes into this one battle to have a couple funny one-liners that aren't really even meant to be funny. So I just don't think I would like to play this game again. I would potentially consider playing it as a party of 4 because I just think that could be entertaining. But other than that, no, I don't think I will ever see myself picking up Solasta ever again. This might be one of the lowest scores I've given it in a while. I'm going to go with 67. Yeah.
All right. So
did I say pass?
You,
I don't know if I ever officially said pass.
You did.
You did.
Okay, just
yeah.
making sure I was clear. I wasn't sure if I said the word
I think
pass.
people
I want to
got
be
it.
very
No,
clear.
I have to say the word game or pass. It's part of our podcast.
I think people got it. Keith.
I don't know.
So as I said, Solasta's a game for me. But yes, I agree with Keith. Is Solasta a good game? No, not really. But I did have a lot of fun. You know, it's definitely kind of a low budget game, but you know, there's not a lot of, you know, kind of heavy RPG, tactical RPGs that are based on Dungeons and Dragons out there. And this game, I think, did a great job with it. I thought the action was a lot of fun. The story's okay. The inventory management's rough. The controls are a little rough. Dialogue's a little rough. Animation's a little rough, but it still was just a fun time. And, you know, I guess to clarify more, I agree with Keith that like the multiplayer is a lot of fun. The nice thing with the multiplayer too is, you know, I've been playing mostly single player. I can load up my single player game to where I am, and my friends can jump in and just take control of one of the 4 characters that I have. And then they can leave and I can continue as a single player game. So you're not forced to be like, ooh, this save is only multiplayer and you can only play with your friends. This game gives you a lot of options of just, yeah, you can play by yourself now and now your friends can jump in. So the multiplayer aspect is just really good. I loved the actual choices of dialogue and how the story would kind of change of whether you want to kill people or save people. It was a lot of fun. I think it's a great adventure. It's, you know, if you're someone who's always wanted to try Dungeons and Dragons, I think this game did a good job introducing you to the systems and how it works. It can be very slow at the beginning because it's a lot of text boxes you're reading and there's a lot of information and the controls aren't the greatest, but if you give it some time, Solasta can be a lot of fun. For me though, this is a 75.
Well, see, now I feel weird because I was going to give it a 77.
I was tempted to give it 77.
Because...
Then maybe I'll bump mine up to 77 as well. Because you know what? Don't think about it. Because it is... Yeah, 77 actually is good.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad game. I just feel like it has so many different elements that I enjoy in games. And they didn't do any of them exceptionally well.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that it's all kind of in there together. And I enjoy it. I actually feel bad giving it a 77 because... I feel like it's getting better where I'm at now. Like the first couple hours were just kind of brutal, and now I'm enjoying it, and I think it'll keep getting better. But yeah, I don't think it's bad. And looking at Metacritic, Series X TBD and a 7, Xbox One TBD, and our 4th and silent co-host is back.
Yes.
Oh, he definitely gave it a 0.
Yeah, there's no possible
Yeah,
way.
there's no.
I just want to know how many
But
turd sandwiches are in this.
He didn't say turd once. This I think he wrote it in. I wrote it down. November 2nd, 2022.
Wow.
And
Beat us.
This game came out in 2021.
Beat us to this one.
But yeah, I liked the kind of his phrasing. I mean, this is Google Translate, so it's obviously a little, you know, but like rolled under the armpits of the past. It said it was so boring. They fell asleep. It must be said that the turn-based battles are of limited interest. something about a moldy ladle. It's just like he was like really. I don't know. I liked.
That must be translation. What the heck is a moldy ladle?
Well, molded with a ladle. I think it meant a ladle with mold. I don't know. I just think that he got very colorful with this review, and he definitely didn't like it. But there was no cursing, no talk about turds or anything.
He's matured now.
All right.
He's using.
I want to know how much time he put into it.
About dirty spoons or something.
Oh man, yeah. Like you make a very good point, Liz. Of like all the pieces are here. It's just they're not super good, and it's because this game it was a crowdfunded game, so you definitely could tell this studio just had a low budget. But like I said, I'm impressed with what they were able to pull off, though. And I think it's a solid game.
Yeah, with a bigger budget, like I can't imagine how good this game would be.
Well, we do.
It's called Baldur's Gate 3.
Baldur's Gate 3.
Never played it.
It just came out.
I'll take your word for it.
Everyone's giving it like a 10.
Well, I didn't play 2 or 1 either, so.
I played 2. But I think that was more of an ARPG from what I remember. Or I'm thinking of a different game, but I'm pretty sure it was that. But, yeah.
I don't think I've ever played a Baldur's Gate.
I kind of want to look it up, but I remember one of them being in like ARPG.
I believe it.
I don't know. I don't feel like looking it up right now.
I like the honesty.
What?
I like the honesty. You're like, eh.
Well, because I know you guys are just waiting for me to wrap this episode up. You're like, I don't want to wait for me to type something in.
Wow, you think we're just really impatient people, don't you?
Oh, sorry. Liz is the impatient one. Keith will be okay with me looking something up.
I think I am pretty patient.
I think you're going to say the most patient, but then you just edited yourself to pretty patient.
I do feel like I'm pretty patient.
I mean, you're married to Andrew. That says something.
Yes. Do you know what? He's one of those people that's like, I'm always on time. 5 minutes late for everything is not on time.
2 minutes late. And that is on time.
I mean, if you're using the word late, you are by definition not on time.
If
you are late.
Yeah, if you're
I'm
early,
no better,
you're on time.
But I'm just pointing out a fact that using the word late just nullifies any other further definition of your arrival time. It's late.
What I think it's funny because when I started working at Panera with Andrew way back when,
were you the manager?
Well, I started before them.
No,
What?
but she taught me how to make sandwiches.
I trained him.
It's adorable.
But when I was hired, they said if you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. And if you're late, you're super late. And Andrew was always super late.
But you know what? I always showed up.
And I'm patient. I married you even though you're late for things. And it stresses me out.
You're like 20 minutes early. And honestly, it's more rude to be so early.
I mean, I've worked in retail and fast food. Well, Panera's not fast food, but in food management. And there is something to be said for always showing up. Because I even called out a lot, so I'm not even pointing the finger at people. I just know that those industries have that because I was part of the problem. So always showing up.
Oh, so you're just saying be happy they showed up?
No, I'm not saying be happy. I'm just saying that you get like a one pat on the shoulder, not even on the back. It absolutely on the shoulder, top of the shoulder. To be clear, it is not a back pat. You did not do a good job. You were late. But you get a shoulder tap.
Do you know how many times I've ever been reprimanded for being late?
Not enough. Not
Zero.
enough, clearly.
Well, you also
Zero.
never call out, though.
Exactly.
So if someone was like, oh, you're 1 minute late, and it's like, I haven't called out in years.
Exactly.
So
that's why in all of my performance reviews, no one has ever been like, oh, you're like a minute or two late. I have never once heard that. But I always get, you always show up for your shifts. Like, you always work. You never call out. So,
that's true.
Exactly. So that's why I would disagree with you of me being late. I am on time, and I am there.
I'm still late.
Well, no, you can't just make up
Still
what
late.
on time means because you show up for work.
Yeah, you're
But
The whole point is I am patient.
Maybe the best, because then you can kind of say
Yeah.
like, it's close enough that I'm punctual. I'm arriving close.
Well,
on
so
time.
when it comes to work, like right now you work somewhere where like somebody's waiting for you to get there because you need to switch over the shift.
yeah,
It is then late to like, and this is with Panera too, because you work different shifts. It is then late. To be late is rude because that person cannot leave until you're ready, and then orders are coming in. So if you stroll in 5 minutes late, they can't leave, and then orders might pop up right when you get on the line.
This is also why my coworkers love me, because yes, I am there. I need to receive report from my coworkers.
Yeah.
But I don't dilly-dally. I literally throw myself in my locker, punch in, boom, and I'm right
You
there.
don't even put
Other
your
people are
food
like,
in
I
the
need
fridge.
to print. I need to drink my coffee. I need to do this. I'm like, no. I was like, give me a report and get out of here.
Yeah,
I've never made a coworker late to leave.
Keith, he doesn't even refrigerate his food at work.
No.
So he works 12-hour shifts, and I'll make him something, and it doesn't matter what it is, he doesn't refrigerate it. And he never gets sick.
Well, I did
Isn't
lose
that
my
weird?
gallbladder recently.
Wait, what?
I did lose my gallbladder recently, which all my coworkers are making fun of me for. They're like, oh, this is why you lost your gallbladder. I'm like, well, I can't lose it again, so I'm going to eat this whole pizza.
Well, no, it's also like, I remember, I think I've said this before on the podcast, but when COVID was going around, you ate somebody's yogurt that they'd already eaten out of, and then you got that phone call like, oh, they had COVID, and you're just like, yeah.
But I never got COVID. I worked frontline COVID the entire time, and I never got COVID.
I'm just saying, like, you live dangerously in the food department.
I do.
You always have that
too.
saying, like, do you know if I get sick? Spring cleaning.
Like, do you go to other tables at restaurants when they leave?
No.
Like, what?
No.
You're eating
It was
other
offered to
people's
him.
Yogurts? It's
pretty gross.
Because, look,
Okay,
It's
it was
like
a
soup.
yolk crunch, and she took one bite of it. So it's not like
No,
she
you
was
said
double dipping her
no.
food.
You
She
told
took
me it was 2.
one bite.
You told me it was 2, and the spoon went back in.
No, it was one
That's-
bite.
You know, so you lying now?
Oh,
or you
wait,
lying
no, it might
before?
have been two.
It
It was
That's
2.
why I
It was.
to share
Yeah, actually, I
a
remember
yogurt.
that. But it's still not bad. It was 2 bites. Come
and
on.
I will eat things that my children hand me, but
Yeah,
not even a
that's
stranger,
dangerous.
a coworker, that is too many bites to share a yogurt
Yeah.
with a coworker.
And she had COVID, and I still didn't get COVID.
I don't even have questions.
Or
I'm
you just didn't have symptoms.
done with you.
I mean, it's just like gross thing to eat after somebody. It's like soup. You don't eat soup after people.
But why is it not weird to have like a pizza party and everybody's grabbing out of the same box and you're kind of like touching the piece next to it to pull it off? Like,
Oh, I don't care about that.
Liz actually read something.
Why is that not gross?
Liz actually read something of a weird social thing that I never thought about. Liz read a thing of, would you take a free mattress from someone? Everyone says no. Then it's like, well, why do we pay hundreds of dollars to sleep on a mattress that hundreds of people slept on in a hotel? And it's like, that's a good point.
Well, I also think it's interesting that people say that. Do you know how, like, when you're out at a restaurant and if you have fries and people double dip and it's like a community sauce or something, and people are like, well, it's just as rude to like rip it apart and then dip the other side in because your fingers touch the other side. And I just feel like,
Well, Mythbusters did an episode, and no, not that many germs actually grow if you double dip. It's actually not that bad. It's not that unsanitary.
I mean, I think it depends on
I would
how
never-
you're eating the thing that you're dipping. Like, are you?
I guess,
are you
yeah,
like,
if you're like sucking on your potato chip and then
are you,
putting
like,
it in,
eating
yeah.
like a horse, like you're just like throwing your lips around the whole thing, or do you like take a bite like a normal human being?
I've been known to be a horse chewer.
You're just gonna
I used-
casually make out with your French fries.
I used to be super grossed out by germs, and I'm just not anymore. And so, like, I would never
Because we
double.
have a toddler.
I know. I would never. No, I think it's like when I started dating you because you're just so relaxed about everything, and not in a bad way.
So-
but like, I would never, if I was out with friends or something, I would never double dip because people would be grossed out. I don't want to gross people out. But at home, I double dip with you. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, at home,
So-
I'll stick my dang fingers in the dip. It's my home. I'll do as I please.
Oh man, don't even get Liz started on drinking milk out of a milk carton.
oh my gosh.
But
It's just so rude. And it's the same with like juice. I remember when I was growing up and I saw my brother drinking out of the juice container. I dumped that out. I was horrified that somebody
Finish
had
it at
been
that
drinking
point.
out
Just
of it.
Stop drinking out of it.
yeah.
I mean, I guess you were trying to save the family.
Well, and
See,
like I
how gross is
said,
your
I
brother?
was
Going
super.
to pour glasses
I
and
was
just slapping them in a container. There is no.
I was super like grossed out by germs when I was younger. And it's so weird that I'm not now.
biggest germaphobe I know is our co-host guest that we've had on a couple times, Dave. He's a pharmacist. And I remember when I knew him younger, when he was in school, he literally is a person that constantly has a bottle of sanitizer in his pocket, or his wife has it in his purse. There is always some sanitizer within like 5 feet of him at all times. But I remember before I got in the medical field, he was like, if you ever went in the medical field and you learned about germs, like you'd be a germaphobe like me. Here I am. I'm probably worse than I was then.
See, I feel like the more I learn about germs, the more I realize that they're just everywhere, and you just got to get over it. Because, I mean, you go to a restaurant, like, there's some nastiness going on sometimes. You never know. Like, for me, it's like, I don't even worry about it. And there's some people who are like, if they find a hair in their food, they're like, I can't eat it. And for me, I'm like, that's probably the cleanest part of that person's body.
Oh, I've always said that. The hair is the least gross thing you can find in your food.
I mean, I don't want the hair in my mouth because of the texture thing.
But it's definitely the least gross thing you can find.
Yeah, so that's why I'm just like, I pick it out. But, I mean, would you rather find like a fingernail or
exactly,
something?
Or a Band-Aid.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been one of the perks of
growing. How long have we been talking about this?
We've been just like 15 minutes this episode.
Yeah.
Giving the listeners some insight on our personal lives here.
Ticks.
And our weird being late habit. Which, quick PSA, this reminded me too. If you are late for work, please do not speed. I cannot tell you how many patients I have seen who have had severe injuries because they were just running late for work. I've seen it way too many times of people getting car accidents because they were late for work. Just be late for work. Don't speed. It's hindsight's 20/20. When you're in the hospital, you realize it's not worth speeding. So, quick PSA: don't be rushing to work. But anyway, let's end it here. I've been your hardcore gamer, Rostanji. You can find me on Xbox Live at Firebird01952. If you have any game suggestions, please go to GamePassGrabBag.com. You'll find all our links. Send us an email. Say hi to us. We always love hearing from you guys. It always makes our day. We love, getting feedback from our listeners. Please tell us how you found us. What episode was it that you looked up, that you ended up stumbling upon us? I always love hearing that. I always find it so interesting when someone's like, yeah, I found you from Hollow Knight, or I found you from Stardew Valley. That's always fun information I love getting. And also, too, as a reminder, wherever you listen to us, please make sure you leave us a review. It always helps us out a lot. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you all. We love you. Keith.
I've been Keith. I think
you all know that. Review our reviewer, or review our listener.
Who is this? Seth. I thought she said Seth. I'm not gonna blame Seth for this one, because I think this would have ultimately just been one that you picked, and I would have blamed you for it. So this is
I'm giving Seth an 8 because honestly, I would have never looked at this game. I did not know this game was even on Game Pass. So this was a kind of a cool thing where it's just like, hey, I'd never heard of this game or saw it. So Seth, I'm giving you 8 out of 10.
Well, I still think you're a 9 out of 10. But the game is a poop. It's a big old turd sandwich, and I don't like it, and I don't want to play it anymore. But you're a great person. Thanks for listening, and maybe recommend a game Andrew hates next time.
That'll be hard.
Soccer Story.
I feel like that'd be a fun challenge. Recommend a game that you think I will generally hate.
You've given some bad scores before. I'll look and see what kind of games they were and look for them.
If you make Soccer Story and you're listening to this, can you make a second one?
I just keep thinking about the juice that I dumped out, and I feel really rude about it, even though it happened 20 years ago. And
Are you gonna message your brother?
Sorry, Steven. I was a brat. I genuinely do. I'm like,
honestly, it happened one time. See if he even remembers.
It happened one time. I doubt it. When I feel bad about something, I remember it forever.
Oh, who doesn't?
I only did it one time.
Everyone remembers something dumb they said when they were in middle school. And it's just like, it's been, decades, but God, that still just embarrasses me.
Yeah.
Everyone has that.
Except I just said it. But anyways, I'm Liz, a noob, gamertag. Come on, I'm Dean, and I'm on Twitter and Instagram at LizNoob, NoobBusyW.
All right, everyone. We love you all. We'll see you again next week.
Bye, guys.